This is the face of the most famous predator that ever lived. 40 feet of muscle and bone, built around a single instinct. You would feel it before you saw it. The ground itself announcing the arrival of the king. Its name means Tyrant Lizard King, and for the last 2 million years of the age of dinosaurs, it earned every letter. Tyrannosaurus rex, the last and the greatest of the tyrant dinosaurs, a predator so complete that 66 million years later, we are still afraid of it. But the real animal was stranger, smarter, and more terrifying than the monster you think you know. This is the true story of the king of the dinosaurs, how big it really was, how it hunted, and the world it ruled before everything ended. A fully grown Tyrannosaurus stretched around 40 feet from nose to tail and stood over 12 feet tall at the hip, big enough to look into a second-story window. A grown human would barely reach its knee. Laid end to end, the king was as long as a city bus and far heavier. It weighed as much as 9 tons, heavier than a large elephant, carried on 2 pillar-like legs. Every footprint it left was pressed deep into the earth. Its skull alone was 5 feet long, a bone-crushing toolbox, reinforced to take the shock of its own impossible bite. 60 teeth lined those jaws, not thin blades for slicing, but thick, banana-sized spikes built to punch through hide and shatter bone. That bite may have been the most powerful of any animal ever to walk on land, strong enough to bite clean through bone, a force we will measure later in this series. And then there are the arms, almost comically small, yet strong enough to lift a person. What they were actually for remains one of its greatest mysteries. Tyrant Lizard King. When it was named in 1905, no one had ever imagined a land predator on this scale. More than a century later, it is still the benchmark. Everything about it was balanced. The heavy head at the front, the long, muscular tail at the back, meeting over powerful hips, a body engineered to carry enormous jaws into a fight. So that is the animal. Now the real question, where and when did a monster like this get to rule? Rewind 66 million years, to the end of the dinosaur age. Tyrannosaurus ruled only the final 2 million years. It arrived last. Its kingdom was Western North America, a warm, humid world of winding rivers, fern prairies and towering conifer forests, laced with life. Geologists call this lost world the Hell Creek Formation. Its rocks hold the richest record we have of the very last dinosaurs on Earth. There was no ice anywhere on the planet. The climate was warm and wet, closer to a modern subtropical swamp than anything we would recognize. The first flowering plants were spreading across this world. Forests of conifers and fern fed vast herds of plant-eaters. And where there are great herds, there are great hunters. Its most famous neighbor was Triceratops. 3 horns, a shield of solid bone, and the strength to fight back. Prey and rival in equal measure. Great herds of duck-billed Edmontosaurus moved across these plains by the thousand. To the king, they were a living, walking food supply. Other hunters shared this land, swift, feathered raptors that took smaller prey, but even they moved carefully. In this kingdom, they were not the ones in charge. And underfoot, small furred mammals scurried in the shadows, our own distant ancestors, waiting for their turn that had not yet come. Every one of these animals had a place in the food chain. And every chain in Hell Creek led up to the same summit. Fully grown, an adult Tyrannosaurus had no natural predators. Its only real rivals were other tyrannosaurs and the passage of time itself. This was the apex predator of the last great age of dinosaurs. But raw size was not what made it deadly. Its real weapons were hidden inside its skull. Its greatest weapon was its nose. The part of its brain devoted to smell was enormous. It could scent a carcass or living prey from miles downwind. Its eyes faced forward, like a hawk or a human, giving it sharp, overlapping vision and precise depth perception. It could judge distance to strike with deadly accuracy. It was tuned to low, rumbling sounds, the deep calls and footfalls of large prey. Smell, sight, and hearing working as one hunting system. When those senses found their target, the jaws finished the job. No other land animal, before or since, has bitten down with anything close to this force. It could bite straight through solid bone, and it did. We find its tooth marks gouged deep into the fossilized bones of its prey.
For all that power up front, those famous little arms stayed small. Not weak, but small. Why evolution kept them is a genuine scientific puzzle we will dig into later. Its legs were huge, muscular pillars, not built to sprint, but to tirelessly carry 9 tons across miles of territory. Just how fast is a debate for later. It did not begin as a monster. A young Tyrannosaurus was slender and fast, built for the chase, a completely different hunter from the tank it would become. Through its teenage years, it grew explosively, gaining kilograms every single day, until the fast young hunter transformed into the bone-crushing king.
And it was no mindless brute. Among dinosaurs, Tyrannosaurus was relatively intelligent, a patient, calculating hunter that learned its territory and its prey. This is only the beginning of the king's story. Its battles, secrets, and fall are still to come. But first, watch it do the one thing it was built for: the hunt.
For all its size, the king was an ambush hunter. It used cover, wind, and patience, closing the distance quietly before committing to a single explosive charge. Everything it had, the senses, the legs, the jaws, came together in a few brutal seconds. This is what 9 tons of ambush looks like. Nothing in this world was truly safe from it. Not the armored, not the horned, not the fast. When the king committed, the hunt was almost always over before it began. Late afternoon, at the water's edge, a herd has come to drink, and along the tree line, something enormous has been watching them for a long time. The duckbills are calm. They are big, alert, and there is safety in numbers. But one of them has drifted a few steps too far from the rest.
For a moment, it senses that something is wrong. The birds have gone quiet. The forest is holding its breath. And then it is already too late.
9 tons explode out of the shadows. In a handful of strides, the ambush becomes a collision that the ground itself can feel. The strike is a single, overwhelming bite, the most powerful on land, closing on its target. The outcome is decided in an instant. And then, stillness. The herd is gone. The king remains, victorious and utterly in command of the ground it stands on.
A kill this size could feed the king for days. It did not need to hunt often, only to win completely when it did.
Others would wait their turn. Raptors and scavengers hung back at a respectful distance, hoping for scraps and knowing better than to challenge the owner.
One look was enough. In a world full of giants, everything else understood exactly where it stood, and it was not at the top.
For over 1 million years, this was the shape of power on land. The sun setting on another day of the king's long, unchallenged reign.
66 million years later, no creature grips our imagination like this one. It has become the very symbol of a lost and monstrous world.
Ahead, the king faces its greatest rivals, the horned, the armored, and even monsters larger than itself. And we uncover the secrets its bones still hide.
And everything you have seen is built on hard evidence. Real skulls, real teeth, real bones, dug from the rock and studied for over a century.
This was not a movie monster. It breathed, it hunted, it ruled. A real animal that once walked a real world, and that world was about to end. Because the reign of the king, and of every dinosaur, was running out of time. High above, a threat was already on its way that nothing on Earth could fight. But that ending is still ahead of us. For now, the king walks on, master of all it sees, exactly as it had for 1 million years.
We have called it 40 feet of muscle and bone. But how big was Tyrannosaurus really? And just how large did the biggest one ever get? That is where we go next. The king has only just begun to reveal its secrets. Subscribe and click the videos on your screen to keep exploring the world of the dinosaurs.